I mean, does everyone has a drink? That's the most important. Like,
absolutely.
I think
okay,
we're on.
cool.
Hello,
Nice. The most important. Great.
I spilled myself with some of delicious rum. Are we
It's
live?
really good.
I think we're live.
I think we're live.
Oh, hello everybody.
Hello, everyone. Hi. Cheers.
Salut. Hello, Atle. Hello,
Oh, yes.
Hi, Atle. Hi,
Hello,
Alexandre.
Stephanie.
Hello, everyone. Nice.
Wonderful. That's a good way to start.
Yeah.
This is tasty. This is really tasty. I had like chance to try before and now.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Super cool. Great. Nice. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is okay. How is your day? Oh my goodness, how is the weather in Norway, Atle?
Oh, I must say that today it's been a beautiful day, and I'm just so happy because usually we just have rain, you know, in Norway. It's just raining and it's dark all year and very sad. But suddenly today the sun decided to come up, and I'm not sure if it's a sign because we have the masterclass today, but it was just a wonderful start of the day, and I'm just thrilled and excited.
That's cool. Hey, Marianne. Hello from Toronto. Oh, wow.
Oh, wow, Toronto.
Welcome.
Yeah. I think we all almost have the same climate up there. In Norway
really?
and Toronto, yes.
Quite possibly. Possibly. Nice. And you're in Cognac, Alexandre, so how's the weather over there?
It's been a beautiful day. You know, the harvest has been put in, you know, and so pretty much everybody is finished with the harvest. And we had the nice showers like a couple of weeks ago, a week ago, and so it kind of regenerates the vineyard. You know, the vineyard gave all its fruits, and now it's a beautiful, beautiful sunshine day. So very, very lucky, and also a great weekend that way. And it's good for the vineyards to be able to do that. So it's wonderful.
That's great. That's great. Hi, everyone. Hi, Eugene. I see you all the way from Kenya. Hi, Michael. Hello, everyone. We were just talking about weather and how it is apparently sunny everywhere but Paris.
Is the weather bad in Paris?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's gray. And it's cold, and from time to time you have a bit of rain. But yeah, I mean, you know, winter is coming. So
yes.
Hi, Brittany. How are you? Nice.
Hi, Brittany.
Nice. Ooh, we have people from all over the world coming, like the
cool.
US, Kenya, Toronto. Are we going to have people in Asia? Who knows?
Are there any Scandinavians here? Shout out, please.
Scandinavians,
Scandinavia, some Vikings, come on.
Cheers, Tom. Nice. Well, anyway, hello, everyone. Really, welcome to the Master Blender series. We're really happy to have you today. So we are going to talk about really interesting things. We are having today our friends, yes, experts at dynamic aging since 1805. I'm saying Linie Aquavit over there, all the way from Norway. And we are going to talk about this amazing journey we shared with them and how these beautiful products over here come to life. It's the result of an amazing friendship across many oceans, but those two amazing, passionate people right next to me will tell you everything about it. So for those who don't know who I am, I'm Stephanie Simbo, and I'm the Global Brand Manager for Plantation. Just started, brand new in the Plantation family, and I'm really looking forward to hear about all these amazing story, the friendship about dynamic aging, the world tour, and to share all those information with you. So first of all, cheers.
Cheers to you. It's a pleasure. Cheers. I already drank half of my glass, all right?
It's going to take maybe more than 45 minutes.
Usually a good sign. Hello, everybody. It's a great, great pleasure. So it's a great pleasure here to share this. Thank you, Stephanie. It's great to have you also. And it's a wonderful journey when you think about it, because, you know, who would have thought? And I followed Linie since a long, long time. Actually, I have a little story. It was one of my grandfather's favorite products. And he always claimed that a journey at sea for a spirit would be a wonderful thing. And saying, look, the Norwegians are doing it right. You know, they've been doing it all along. And, you know, when you're a French guy and you're looking at this, and at first, there's been that belief that when you put a spirit at sea and you put it in a barrel and you let it ship, and with the movement of the sea, think about it. You're on a boat, and the movement of the sea and the liquid is being shifted around in the barrel by the movements, but also you have differences of temperature. That's very important. And the humidity, extreme humidity for a long journey. Even in a few weeks, actually, it makes a difference. So imagine in this case, 5 months at sea. So Linie is the expert about this. And of course, you know, Atle will be able to tell us a little bit more about this, about their extremely long tradition. As Stephanie said, they've been at it, and respect to them. They never broke the tradition since the mid-1800s, with some historical reference to 1806, you know, and so they never stopped. So they have all this experiment under their belt. And as you know, with Plantation, we revived, as far as we were concerned, with the, you know, West Indies rum distillery, the fact of shipping inside the barrels. And that's something that makes a huge difference. And, you know, when I heard this from my grandfather, you know, when you're young, and I thought, is it really romanticism, spirit romanticism? Because, you know, in spirits, there's a lot of romance. You know, think about, you know, when somebody tells you there's goat heads in the fermenting vats in Jamaica, there's no goat heads in the fermenting vats in Jamaica. It is just you know, something to make you open your eyes. And so there is some of these things. And does that really make a difference? And I always wanted to know, and the minute, as you know, we grew from a small company, but the minute, and we're still small and family, but the minute we could afford it, we had somebody who's actually from a village right next to the one I grew up, who joined us, Nicolas, who's a PhD and did a wonderful thesis about the terroir of cognac. And that was his PhD thesis. And we said to Nicolas, well, you know, why don't we just do the full technical analysis about what happens in the barrel? And you know, we analyzed, we did a chromatography, because your nose and your palate shows that there's a huge difference. But are they really playing a trick on you? Sometimes it's all in your brain, right? Usually not, you know, you're trained many, many years. And it shows right there, you know, that there's much more elements of taste, what we call for the super geeks, the volatile substances, including a higher alcohol and esters. But maybe, Atle, I'd love you to give you a little bit of background about what you do, and I'll tell you what I fell in love with what you did, and how I felt that plantation rum, we would choose one of the plantation rum expression and really marry it with your barrel, which was kind of, you know, when you think, quite a potent spirit, really. But tell us a little more about Linie and the profiles.
I mean, Alexandre, you talked about romance, and I think if there is one thing that Atle is in love with, is Aquavit. I mean, Atle, just a quick introduction. You're the ambassador, the Norwegian ambassador for Aquavit. And you worked 10 years with Norway's national spirits, Aquavit, and then you really realized that Aquavit was the love of your life, at least the professional love of your life. And then you joined Arcus in 2019, where you were the president of the Norwegian Aquavit Association, with more than 8,000 members in 50 regions across the country, which is a lot of Aquavit lovers. And you were also the CEO of 5 Oslo-based restaurants, so a foodie as well. Great. So can you tell us more about you and how you were introduced to the Aquavit, and obviously what Alexander told us about the experience?
Yes. Well, first of all, I'm so happy to be a part of this, and this collaboration has been, I think, fantastic for both parties, and really interesting. And we're going to talk a lot more of that. But first of all, we have to talk about me, sadly. And you said that I am married to Aquavit, and I think it's a good way of expressing my love for Aquavit. We have to remember that my wife also has this link, so she's watching now. So I just have to say I love you, darling, but you know, it's Aquavit.
I said professional love of his life.
It's just business, darling. Yeah, you know. So it started out for me a little bit more than 10 years ago, where I suddenly realized that wow, we have this wonderful national spirit called Aquavit. And I've been working, as you say, in the restaurant industry for many years, and I'm quite classically taught. So I learned, of course, a lot about the kitchens of the world, and also the exquisite French kitchen. I learned about wine, I learned about cognac, and all these, you know, foreign spirits. And then suddenly it just hit me one day that, wow, we have this fantastic Norwegian spirit as well called Aquavit. I must say that what's happening with Aquavit the last 10 years has been a small revolution. Before it was very much concentrated around Christmas. Now it's more of an all-year product, and we see all new different styles coming up. It's very much part of the restaurant scene, and it's definitely trending a lot. So I'm happy to see that. But I already realized this a little bit more than 10 years ago, and since that day I've been in love, Stephanie. It's just the love of my life. It makes so much sense. And the history of Aquavit here in Norway obviously goes back many years. We have written references over 500 years ago. And this is not 500 years ago, but this is from the 1805 reference, as Alexandre just mentioned. But already in the 1500s, we got spirits to Scandinavia, and the spirit was called Aquavit. And as you probably know, Aquavit in Latin means the spirit of life. And it's actually the same as, you know, whiskey. In Gaelic, it's ushkebeita, which means the same. In French, you have eau de vie. So it's basically a Nordic expression of the spirit, because I think all spirits come from one place, and it's just taken different tastes as it's been traveling around the world. So we got Aquavit, and the special thing with Aquavit, of course, it's based in the Scandinavian countries on grain in Sweden and Denmark, and then very special for Norway, we use potato to make the spirit. But this spirit is just to get alcohol. So there's no taste from the potato. The taste comes from basically two sides. You have the spice distillation, and then you have the cask maturation. So that really sets us aside from our Scandinavian cousins, to say it in that way. But I think, Jules, you can take back the picture of the ship, because that's what we're talking about today. If you can get the old ship back on the screen, Jules. Oh, there we are. This is a very, very old ship, and it just marks the start of the Linie tradition in Norway. And this ship was actually set sail from Trondheim, which is a city placed in the middle of Norway, in 1805. And it had course for Jakarta. At least it's called Jakarta today, in Indonesia. And it also had 5 barrels of aquavit on board. It reached Jakarta. I think it took a little longer than we traveled this time, Alexandre. It took a couple of years, but when it came to the harbor and they tasted it, they didn't like it at all. So sadly, it was just returned, and it came back. And when we opened the barrels here, we found out that magic has happened. And we have to know at this stage, I think cask maturation was not very common. So this is it's both the discovery of dynamic aging, but also cask maturation for Norway's part. So it's very interesting.
That's amazing. I mean, the historical aspect of it, the expertise that you brought into this great partnership, and I mean, this crazy world tour idea. What would happen if Cask of Plantation Rum traveled on boat for 5 months, aged in Linie and vice versa, you know, Linie in Plantation Cask? And
Yeah.
you know, this is the definition of our barrel swap program. This is what we do. Unprecedented concept from passionate friends, uh, share of expertise, and great friendship. So can we talk more about this crazy idea of like taking plantation rum and put it into Linie cask and vice versa, how it came up, the expertise behind the dynamic aging, how long the dynamic aging has been done, how does it occur, etc.
Okay, Alexandre, hit it.
Well, you know, I've been doing this for what, 31 years, you know, and still having a lot of fun. And I'm trying, you know how I'm doing this. The only problem I have, the more I learn, the more I realize there's so much to learn. So I got to be careful and really spend time. And I was really fascinated, like I said earlier, with this incredible know-how that you guys have about dynamic aging. And as you know, I'm actually writing a 30-page piece here trying to put together all the findings that we had. But then I realized these guys have been at it for like over 150 years. So about a couple of years ago, and as you know, I will never pass a chance to taste a great spirit. And I was at a show and I'm like, I got to taste the Linie Aquavit again. And I forgot who I met, if it was somebody from your technical team like Ingrid or somebody else, or maybe Jonas, I don't know. But we tasted the product, the Aquavit, and I thought it was really refined, really polished. And I thought, you know, I don't remember anybody doing it in recent history. It was probably done in the old days, because in the old days, people were very smart. They didn't throw barrels away. They would recycle them. So think about it. You know, you would ship Aquavit one way, ship back rum the other way. People would really save everything, you know. And, you know, my grandmother, who went through Second World War, when we opened a chocolate bar tablet, she would never let the aluminum go to waste. She would actually cook, use it and save it to cook like a dish with it. So that was the same thinking, was to be very savvy and very savvy about things. And I'm like, what if we actually use this beautiful barrels, because the spirit is beautiful. You know, when you reuse a barrel, I tell with the team here, we never reuse a barrel if we don't really know everything about the spirits that was in there, or the wine that was in there. I need to really have an intimate relationship with it. So I already had that relationship, and I dared my team. I said, why if we do this? But we had a huge problem, you see. A very big problem is when we do these barrel swaps, we usually have these barrels next to us and we taste them every week or every day. It's like raising a child, right? You need to do the homework where we would taste them. But the only problem, short of being locked up in a container for 5 months at sea with aquavit and rum barrels, which is probably an option we contemplated for a while, but realistically, that would have been crazy. And so we would have to kind of relax and let go to just imagine what would happen to our rum. So we ship the rum. And first of all, I want to say one thing, is which rum do you choose to go in a Linie barrel? And we really thought about it hard here, my team and I, and hello to them. And I saw Steve also from The Addict. Hello, Steve, much love. And, you know, we really thought hard about this one. And we said it would be beautiful to use an extremely structured barrel. And there's something, the rums from my good friends, you know, at Fiji, Rumco of Fiji, and Liam Costello and his team, they produce, thank you, Gilles, that's the picture.
Thank you,
Right before the doors closed, I go there once in a while, and that was just before COVID. That was the last country I almost stayed there. And, you know, when we're working on things, you see, you know, I'm here with the guys, you know, manning that beautiful still. It's a retort for the experts. It's a retort that was built with by a good friend of mine called David Pym from Jandor. Beautiful equipment. And I really chose, it's 100% pot still rum. So extremely structured, big muscle, big muscle. Not everybody will enjoy it because it's so powerful, but it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. And then we thought, look, you need something to stand up, right? Aquavit has got this spice element, and you know, you need a rum that's going to be really beautiful being married with that. And again, that frustration of having that rum that goes back. And when the rum came back from that trip, I like, it's going to be either a total win or a total lose. And when we opened, when the doors open and I received that sample and I tasted it, I was with the guys and I was like, nobody talks. We're tasting that rum. And I loved it. And it could have been, you know, either overpowered or just bring it something from the rum. Because you see the idea, when you use a barrel, you're not trying to build another rum. You're trying to showcase certain elements of rum. And what it does here, it showcases certain element of this beautiful rum for Fiji that was distilled, you know, it's distilled 11 years ago, right? So that rum first was, think about the journey of that beautiful rum, was distilled in Fiji from Fiji molasses, local molasses, very specific, you know, and that's from a sugar mill that's a few yards from the distillery. Then shipped here to France for its double aging in a cognac barrel and shipped inside the barrels. So that rum already traveled inside the barrel at full proof from Fiji to France. Then we shipped it to Norway, where it was transferred into the Aquavit barrels. You can see the journey here. Mm-hmm. And Atle, you want to describe a little bit that journey that this barrel went on. And we thought would be great because usually when we do dynamic aging fermentation, it's like 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, a little longer when it comes from quite longer when it comes from Fiji. But here's a full journey.
Yes, it is, and this is the journey that every Linie bottle goes through. And actually, at any given time, we have 1,500 liter barrels at sea somewhere. And we've been using the same ocean liner company. It's called Wilhelmsen for almost a century now. So they have a lot of experience in, you know, where to put the barrels to make the most of it, to put it in that way. And as you can see illustrated far left here, you can see the containers. We place them high up in the ship, right in the front, where they get a lot of exposure to the weather. Basically, you have sun heating up the containers. It can get really hot in the containers, especially when you are near equator. And then, of course, being at the front of the boat, all the way in the top, you know, that's where they put the buffet in cruise ships. And there's a reason for that. That's because you shouldn't eat too much because you get seasick, right? So you have a lot of motion. And then the ship takes off. And if you go back to the big picture again, you can see the journey starts actually not in Oslo, but in Germany. We ship it down there in Bremerhaven. And then it goes over to the United States and then south, not very far from Fiji, I can see. And then it crosses through the Panama Canal and then down to Sydney. And that's the first stop. And then on the way back, it also goes through Southeast Asia, up to Japan, over to the United States West Coast again, and then back down through the Panama Canal and back to Bremerhaven and then back to Oslo. So as I already say, it's at any given time 1,000 barrels at sea doing this journey. And also the rum was joining us for actually the first time ever. And this is really important to emphasize because even though we've been doing a lot of experimenting and cask maturation with different types of casks, normally we use oak cask that's been previously used for sherry, but we've been using also Madeira, port wine, bourbon, different kind of casks. But it's the very first time we have a shipmate, and that's, I think, something very special. Yes, thank you, Jules. This is just actually right behind me now. I'm at the distillery just outside Oslo now. And we also have a quite big storage room for the casks. It's actually over 8,000 of these barrels that matures the Aquavit. So not all of these goes on the Linie travel. It's just the Linie, of course, but it's quite a big volume. And for now and for the first time, we have a shipmate. And I think that's in this almost 200-year-old tradition. it's quite fantastic, and it's very special for us, and also really happy that the result ended in this way. And I know, Alexandre, that you've also been doing a little bit on research on this, because it's not just, you know, the palate. We have to do some real research as well.
Well,
Like it's indeed, it's really great for you guys to get a new shipmate.
Yes.
Especially after 200 years, it must have been a bit lonely.
We've been very lonely.
So for our viewers, like when it comes to dynamic aging, can we just like maybe go slightly more technical without being too geeky, because we can talk for hours about it. But like, you know, how does it impact flavors in spirits? Maybe Alexandre, you can talk about it. The history behind it.
That's as you can imagine, and you know, the dynamic aging was born out of necessity originally. When rum, I'm going to speak about rum here, which you know, when rum produced, and you know, a long time ago in the Caribbeans, people were not shipping containers of empty bottles to the Caribbeans. People would actually ship the full barrels to points of consumption, right? And then they would bottle locally where the rum would be consumed. So for hundreds of years, think about it, and think about also you know, the Navy, the British Navy, that was shipping its rum also that way, and also pirates. You know, everything was being shipped inside a barrel, and everybody realized early on not only the effect of aging. That's, by the way, I'm now writing a book on the history of aging and its techniques. It's people realize that something that was a necessity, storage and then transportation, creates beautiful things. And so, you know, what we discovered, and I'm trying not to be too technical here, but I really give people, and we have some very knowledgeable geeks I see on the list here. So I'm gonna just tell you a few things. What are our findings? If you have a very structured rum, and this one's very structured, I just was looking at my notes when we analyzed it, it's almost 600 grams of volatile substances, right, per hectoliter. So very, very chunky, very, very substantial rum. When you ship the rum inside the barrel, what happens is you have this beautiful interaction with the wood. So you get more extraction from the wood. You can imagine, because the inside of the wood is like a crocodile skin, you know, from the heat exposure when the barrel was built. And so that's rubbing with the barrel is extreme, you know, with the movement. And then something you have to keep in mind also is that because of the differences of temperature, and especially with extreme heat, because what we do inside the barrel, inside the container, we put humidity sensors, and we put movement sensors, and we put temperature sensors. So we have like kind of a record of what happened to these barrels. And we see that all these elements combined enhance elements of the rum. For example, I talked early on the esters. What are the esters in the rum? Is what smells like very ripe, beautiful exotic fruits. Things ripe banana, you know, fresh pineapple, you know, sometimes mango, and these elements are enhanced by that. That's a scientific fact. We have the analysis to this. Some other elements that are boosted is what we call the higher alcohols. Now, don't think that a chromatography explains everything. The best tool for tasting spirits, and I want everybody to keep that in mind, is right in the middle of your face. It's your nose, and of course, it's your palate. But these analyses are just there to confirm what you experience. So it boosts elements that we call higher alcohol. Think about raw chocolate notes. So after that trip, it's totally enhanced by the trip in a beautiful, beautiful way. Another last point, Stephanie, in your question, is that it creates something we call fondu in French. Fondu is the integration of the different elements. So a beautiful thing. And to that day, and that's why we made it something that when we bring back the barrels of plantation from Jamaica, from Barbados, now from Fiji, we do it in a ship. And so, you know, it's also better, you know, to ship bottles out and back, but it's also beautiful for the taste. It's a nice polish. And that partnership with Linie was like, these guys have been doing it for so many years. What can we learn from them? And then one thing leading from another. As you know, I've worked with a lot of different master blenders and master distillers, always learning so much. What can we learn from one another? and having this experience. And they were very excited, and we're very, very excited. And how can we use also a barrel? Because as you know, 99.9% of rum is aged in bourbon barrels. So the idea, as you know, with Ferrand, we use French oak barrels, we use cognac barrels, and with the special single cask collection, we just use, when you see a label with a, black label on Ferrand like this one, that's an experience with the third maturation. That's the one we did with the guys from Linie. And so the finding was that, and you add to that, that's extra layer of spice notes. And I can tell you, I was tasting it here, waiting for everybody to get online. And, I like to taste back one of the rums. And to me, I was getting, exotic fruit notes. I was getting elements of cocoa and slight notes of smoke and so on. So all this was incredible. And then I had that in the background, some elements of spiciness, of mints and so on, that were intertwined with the rum. That was using the special barrel. So here you go, Stephanie. That's what happens in that barrel. And it was a finding when we opened this door. And I'm so glad we did this. And it's a very limited edition. It's the first time we ever did it. And, I never used the Aquavit barrels in my life before.
Yes.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, with dynamic aging is so fascinating. The emphasis, like how plantation take a technique, an old technique, and how Linie, you were expert at it, and how you combine both of your savoir-faire, and you went beyond, you crossed borders, you went on to exploring and breaking that new ceiling. What happened if we mix rum and aquavit together? And I know about the history. I know what happened with those barrels, but not everyone necessarily know about that travel. So I just kind of wanted for you guys to explain what happened, that world tour, like from the beginning. So from the moment you left Fiji, what happened, the influence of the Fijian climate, then the sailing across the ocean, etc. So
well, it's pretty much, I'm going to let Atle explain to you the journey. I think we touched some of that, the journey. And again, because this is the learning, that's what we get, because remember, and Stephanie, when we ship, we are going to do this. We can explain what happens, of course, in Fiji with the special tropical climate by the sea, by the way. Rumco of Fiji, not far from the sea. It's not on the beach like West Indies Rum Distillery, but it is really close to the water, about 500 meters or so. And then, the barrels are then aged there. So in this very case, it's 7 years in Fiji, in 2 barrels that were bourbon barrels, bourbon cask. And then it's loaded up and transferred on a boat, on a ship, 66 barrels at the time, shipped to France. And then when it arrives in France, so here, that's also a few months. Of course, it depends.
Isn't it 45 days?
Sorry?
Isn't it 45 days?
Depending obviously on the shipping company. And then when it arrives, this one has spent 1.5 years in the barrel that contained Ferrand cognac before. So it's not just bourbon barrel, but it is a cognac barrel. And then that barrel, and then so that's usually what we do, right, Stephanie? And with plantation. And then here, after that meeting with the guys, the guys from Linie, we say we're going to go to that other aging. So after that, we ship these barrels for experiments. For here, it's about learning, to our friends in Norway, and they transfer the rum into the Linie barrels and the Linie barrels into the rum barrels, because they did their own little experiment as well. And here goes that rum for pushing the experience further. And that's the idea of question. That's the idea of learning.
Yes. I think from my part, it's important to just talk a little quickly about how aquavit is made and why we do the cask maturation and then the dynamic aging for Linie especially, because as I already say, we start out with the clear potato spirits, which basically is 96% alcohol and 4% water. So we don't bring any taste from the potato over to the aquavit. The taste comes from the second distillation, to put it in that way, where we add spices. And traditionally in Norway, to be able to make an aquavit, and this is a geographical indication, just like cognac or a cheese or whatever, it's regulated by law. So you have to use caraway. And I think we have the plant here somewhere, Jules. Oh, look at this beautiful flower. Yes.
Nice.
And this is something that's been locally growing in Scandinavia for hundreds of years. And it's been used for many different reasons, but it's also good for your health. And if you listen to the word aquavit, it means the water of life. And historically, it was believed that drinking aquavit would make you feel better. And it was basically, when it came to Scandinavia in the 1500s, a medicine. So when we do take the caraway picture again, Jules. Yes, so we saw the flower first, and this is the seeds, and it's the seeds that we use for the aquavit production. We put that in pot stills with the potato spirits and water. And for Linie, for the recipe, we also use star anise, and these are the two major components. You can also use a variety of other different spices, but for Linie, it's caraway and star anise. So you get that flavor profile, but then the spirit is not matured, and to be able to be called a Norwegian aquavit, you have to mature it, and you have to do so in oak casks. And it just happens to be that the tradition for Norwegian aquavit is oak casks previously used in sherry production. So you also have the element of sherry in there. And that's also important. And I think it was interesting to listen to you, Alexandre, because you talked about history and why is it we don't send anything empty the other way around. And for us Norwegians, of course, we have a lot of fish, and we used to sell fish in barrels, because barrels was the containers of the old days. And we sold our fish down to Southern Europe, and of course to Spain. And we had to buy something back because the ship couldn't be empty, right? And then we got the sweet wines, and that's also how the tradition started. So
Atle, I got nervous. I thought you were going to tell us that you were using the barrels, the
fish barrels.
I was like, Atle, there's no way you're going to have me put my rum to a fish barrel,
Well, talk about
experimentation, Alexandre. We never know.
Let's do that on the next trip, huh? Okay. So then for the Linie, we do 12 months first of cask maturation, and that's in the warehouse here in Oslo. And after that, we send it to the 4-month journey. But actually, this time the journey was 1 month longer. We had some bad weather, some incident that can basically happen when you have it out on the high seas. And I think actually that made the product even better, because as you say, Alexandre, we did some testing and some analysis, and we know that there is a big difference from just keeping it in the warehouse and sending it on the Linie travel. And we also have some references that's not been sent, and you can really taste the difference. But from our part, because we've been doing this for so many years, the real magic was to add the rum casks and being able to travel in the rum casks. Because I have an example of the aquavit here. It's delicious, of course, since it's being aquavit, but it's even more delicious because it's been in the rum casks. Because what I can feel on the nose, in addition to the spices, of course, and all the notes from the casks, I can really feel the tropical fruit. And tropical fruit is something that comes from the rum barrels. I can also feel some brown sugar, some molasses, and I think these top notes are just perfect with the spices and all the other notes from the aquavit. So it just adds another top layer and makes everything even more interesting. I think we should be doing this more
all the time.
Basically all the time. Maybe we should sign a contract in the end. I don't know.
See, that's negotiation. Yeah, wonderful.
I mean, you're a really good seller, Atle, because like I really want to taste it. Like I'm super curious. I've tried Aquavit for the first time with yours, and it was delicious, surprisingly delicious. I'm not to the point where I fell in love the same way you have, but I really like it. I'm a rum person, so rum forever. But now I'm really curious to see, in terms of organoleptic profile, what the rum did to the Aquavit, and find those little spots and the impact of rum on it. Have you tried it, Alexandre? You've tried it, right?
The what? The Aquavit with the rum? Yeah. And actually not yet. This is
not yet.
I think Atle is being a little stingy with me. No, no, I can't wait. Well, I was so eager to finish the rum. These are my babies, right? And so I was so focused like this. And again, wonderful. And I want to apologize to all the listeners who can't taste like us. That's the craziness. Thank you, Atle. And that's the craziness right now. I'm having my bottle of Aquavit as well, but that's the straight one, and I can't wait for the one that is, using the barrels. But I want to apologize to everyone who can't taste this beautiful rum that I'm very proud of. But this is going to make it in some markets. Again, also I apologize because all these experiments, this barrel swap where we swap barrels with wonderful distillers, and I remember working with very talented people from different countries and always learning. And that was definitely the case, because here, this is a very solid company with solid technical people, and they've been at it so many years. And the idea at the end of the day is that you just learn a little bit more.
Yes.
And that's what it is. And if, and the idea is to make a great product in the process. And when you make products like this, sometimes it works beautifully and sometimes it's a mess. And and when it's a miss, but you keep the product and you don't sell it. And we're here. I can't wait until all the fans get to taste it and that. So we'll do that for sure. I just also want to tell everybody, I saw a few questions, but and quite a bunch of questions actually. And Stephanie is going to gather some. And if you have other questions, that we don't answer here, don't be frustrated. Send us messages and stuff. We'll make sure you have your answers. But I know we're going to spend. I saw quite a very interesting questions, and we're going to answer right now.
Yeah. Before jumping to the Q&A, for the final word, what's next? I mean, we know that we are all about experimentation. We have a new shipmate now. Apparently, some offers were launched from Atle saying that we should do that every year. Fish barrel were mentioned. So what's next?
Well, let me tell you one thing, is that the idea here, I love to work with the people who have like that technical background under their belt. And I think, this is the way they feel, probably the same way. And it's like kids swapping baseball cards or football cards, right? And that's how I have learned, for the 31 years, past years. And here that was definitely something that was, really fascinating. So that's what we've done here. And we continue. And the idea is not to replace the learning by another, is just keep on learning. And yes, there has been some challenges, and that sometimes I look at and I'm like, are we going to be able to do this right? I remember, for example, this wonderful partnership. That's the one that comes to mind, but I couldn't name 50, with our good friends from Ocho Tequila and Carlos Camarena, and where we use a tequila barrel. And a tequila barrel with its grassiness was not an easy one, right, for rum. And it turned out great, but we had to watch it, every minute. Now, we felt that was like that step further with some of the spice elements that were in Aquavit. How do you keep that in check so the rum is really a rum? I saw someone mentioning, using one of the, rum that where you use a Kilchoman barrel, which is very smoky. And it's really a rum that you love or you hate. And, I'm the worst sales guy in this company. You ought to know. And so I respect that. Some guys are like, yes, I love this. This is wonderful. And there's some guys are like, what? And that's the idea, is create these emotions with this one-of-a-kind rum. And as you know, we make great friends in the process. And sometimes people look at us and they think we're crazy. And because it's kind of rocks, some people's world in a good way or in a bad way. But at the end of the day, and I say that with a lot of humility and respect, the idea for us is to really produce products that make a difference in a very humble way. And that partnership I thought was interesting, and I feel very excited to do that. Julie's is inviting me to speak this, as you can see on the picture. That's the collection that goes with the Aquavit one that I've created with the team and I here. I've created with different partnerships and different type of barrel this year. And don't be mad at me if you can put a bottle, your hands on every of these bottles, because they're limited and they're not always, available everywhere.
Okay.
Atle? It's hard to, stop when you first started. So it's few, and you should probably make bigger bottles the next time. No, but I think, Alexandre, you're a wise man, and we're also very humbly happy to be a part of this. And for our part, it's also about experiencing your knowledge, talking together, even going deeper in looking at the analysis and what more can we learn, because even though we've been doing this for 2 centuries almost, we still have a lot to learn. And I think the way you learn best is when you do it with great friends that also knows what they're doing from before. So for our part, it's just been wonderful. And I have somebody telling me just on the side here that we actually have a boat ready to go now. So yeah, please send more.
Cool. Great. So now, gentlemen, let's jump to the questions. So we have Eugene who asked, are we going to see new release of Africa in some plantation distillery there? Is Africa on the map when it comes to partnerships, basically?
Would it mean being with a rum from Africa or from spirit barrels from Africa? Is that?
I think, and Nyandi, I think what you were asking is if we are going to have a collaboration with distillery in Africa, right? Or
great. Okay. Well, Africa is an incredible continent with incredible products, and I'm in the learning. And I never do something if I don't feel totally educated. So I've received some products. Some people came here to visit me actually in Cognac not long ago, and I'm tasting a lot of products. And in the minute that this crazy COVID situation is finished, in France we are being hit quite hard, and I'll be able to travel again. And so this is really something on my map for sure, But I must say that to do it, I want to do it right, and I want to respect the culture and the people I work with. And, so I need to learn much more to be able to do this. So give me a few years, because I am at it, and I can't break any news for the moment, but I need quite some time to feel totally relevant when I do something. And that took me quite a few years for the Caribbeans. And obviously, it's the same with Africa.
Okay, great. Looking forward to it. I mean, how much it's gonna be dear to me. So, Michael asked, what is the name of this book? You told us about a Navy rum coming. Navy rum.
Well, there is a book that a wonderful gentleman called Matt Pietrek and his wife actually carry, who's very important as well. And Matt was an engineer in a business, extremely savvy and with a wonderful passion for rum, and goes all the way. And when he retired, I didn't want to believe that he wanted to retire. And I said, do you want to do research about Navy rum and dark rum? And so the Navy rum has a whole process of, remember, historically, of dynamic aging. So Matt has gone through reading the Navy rum contracts and extensive research, not so much about existing books, but really from literal archives. So this book is going to be the history of Navy rum and dark rums. And so it's going to be out. We thought it was going to be out for Christmas, but Angelique, who's trying to manage us, is mad at me because I'm not totally finished with my part. So I apologize to Angelique online, and she's right to be upset because I want to rewrite some pieces. As you know, I'm never happy. I want to be sure it's perfect. So this book will be out hopefully beginning next year with the work from Matt and Carrie, and also actually advice from a wonderful gentleman called David Wondrich. As you know, David Wondrich is one of the most knowledgeable person on spirit in the world, I dare to say, and so also guidance from David. So be patient. It will be out at one point, and we'll mention on it. It will be probably self-published, and so we'll make it available for anybody who wants to read the history of these wonderful ones.
Great. This question is more about the ships, or the travel on the sea. So Atle, like, how can we compare, the ships of before and the big ship of today, in terms of like tangage and roulis, and it's obviously a different technology, different kind of ship. How can you have that consistency, and like, how did you manage to recreate or to have the same kind of experience when it comes to dynamic aging?
Good question, because obviously in the end we need to blend the aquavits to make sure that for Linie part, not this, because this is the special one-off thing, but for Linie's part, it needs for the customer to taste the same every time. And then you need a broad variety of different casks, and you need not a lot of knowledge on how these casks behave on the travel. We know, because we've been using the same route now for many years. Of course, we have a lot of data and we know how that works, but it's also a matter of having a lot of casks to put together, and looking into how it's been done in earlier centuries. It was a whole different affair. Number one, the aquavit tasted very much different 200 years than it did today, because nowadays we have better production facilities, and basically it's a much more consistent production. And of course, the ships were much slower. So this first ship I talked about earlier, that probably took 3 or 4 years traveling, and today it's 4 months. So it's obviously very different.
Nice. We have now a question from Peter, I think. Will you do any dessert wine finish with the rum, Alexandre?
Well, they work beautifully. The minute you have dessert wines, or any fortified wine as well, by the way, that works beautifully. As you know, and I don't know if you can call it a dessert wine, it's also served in aperitif. In Cognac, we make something called Pinot de Charente, which is a fortified wine using Cognac and Cognac grapes. It's delicious. And so I do that every year. You'll see that every year I have my little thing. My father loves that expression every time. So we're trying to make sure he doesn't drink too much of it so we can sell enough of it. And that's an expression using Pinot de Charente. But of course, dessert wines work beautifully for rum, and especially, the molasses rum, the full, whether it is a very balanced, elegant Barbados rum or Jamaican, full-bodied Jamaican rum. It works beautifully. And as you see every year, I usually do at least 1 or 2 of these dessert wines for sure. And then, of course, we use port and we use sherry, and these are usually very well explored. I've been doing it for many, many years and feel comfortable. And I say that again with a lot of humility, but quite comfortable because I got so much under my belt doing it. And here we're pushing the limits when we do experiments with Aquavit, but the dessert wines are a classic for sure. So it's a great question, and you'll see that year in, year out. We're doing that, with Plantation.
Thank you. I think this question is for both of you, but let's ask Atle first. So what do you think, what other type of rum would work well in an aquavit cask, according to you?
Ooh, that's a good question. We have to put it in the barrels and see. That's my answer to that. I think more than this rum we chose now, but this is more. This is more. I think we trusted each other's expertise on this one, and maybe you want to say a little bit more, Alexandre, on why you chose the Fiji rum.
It's a great question, and actually I saw that question. I forgot who was it, Mathieu, or somebody asked that question. I thought it was great. I wanted a very full-bodied rum that has both. Something very specific about the pot still rum from Fiji is they upplay very much both the fruit notes with these raw chocolate notes. You know, usually a rum is either one way or the other. Barbados balanced the two at a very elegant level. Here it's pushed at a very intense level. Again, you know, 600 grams of volatile substances. So it's quite full-bodied. And I thought that was kind of a way to play it. From what I knew, I thought it would work best, and it would also be a safer route. That was a great starting point, you see? And then now, you know, if you want to use another barrel, you should use Jamaica, for example. That would be your next step. And then Barbados, because you're going to have Jamaica, because you got a full ripe fruit notes. Now, I thought about, for us, what rum would work best with an Aquavit barrel. And I was toying with a few ideas, but again, you know, having this full-bodied, very nice pot still, very special, actually, rum from Fiji, I thought would really stand up to the spice notes. So the rum would actually benefit from it because it had already these elements of spices. So they would echo one another. So that's the reason that was my choice. And what worked for us, I thought for the rum would work well for the Aquavit. So that was the thinking of myself and actually the team. I have an incredible team. These guys rock. It's wonderful. And we fight sometimes. You know, the French, we like to argue a lot. So sometimes we fight about this and we always come to an agreement, you know. And so that's what we did.
Nice. And Alexandre, how many barrels do you need to do an experiment like this?
Oh, you know what? One barrel, we made the experiment. For example, I'll give you an example. Our good friends, we have friends who say, okay, I want to try it. For example, I wanted to do we have, for example, we did a Mezcal Experiment, as you know, and so that was just one barrel, right? And so it's not about doing it in a big scale or a small scale. It's really doing it to learn and to make a beautiful product. So one barrel, we'll swap it, you know, and that's always we did. You know, we did it with Del Maguey. They used one of their best, they chose, their best, mezcal, and we used in that case a barrel, was a Sélection des Anges, it was, and then we swap barrels and we see what happens, and we use that when the cask came back. It was a barrel, actually. We sent a barrel to Mexico. They use it for mezcal for 1 year. They were they actually put it into the cask on Bastille Day and took it to Bastille Day next year, shipped back the cask. And so that cask was a cognac barrel, and, so it shipped. And then we used it with rum from Guyana, and it was delicious as well, right? And you have to really tailor. These questions were great. You have to tailor the rum from the barrel that you're using, because the barrel has to, again, this is very important, as we always say, when you ferment, for making a rum, you subtract the sugarcane, molasses or juice, and the fermentation, depending how you do your fermentation, how long and so on, you create flavors. Remember, that's creation. When you distill, you select flavors. When you age, you refine flavors. Creation, selection, refining. That's the 3 steps, right? So each step is your way to make a beautiful rum.
Nice. Speaking of the switch with mezcal, the new Single Cask Bonbonnet is the one with the collaboration we had with Del Maguey. For those who want to have it, it's delicious. Love it. So another question, both of you, is there any project, I don't know, regarding dynamic and static aging, any dynamic cellar maybe, or all of that expertise? Do you think that you could create, I don't know, a global rum database for aging, something to educate people?
Yes.
For the rum, we are doing this, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I will.
Okay.
You're like a kick in the head from Angelique. We we purchased an old beaten up barge that we're putting on the river in France, and we're putting a few hundred barrels, and we have the right to lead that barge on that river for 15 years. So for 15 years. There's another project. If I tell you, I'm really gonna get killed. But the idea is to really do this to learn more, and this is going to be both for making beautiful product, but we're gonna do this by keeping the rum, every month and tasting it every month and see what happens, and then that in that case will be done in Europe. And of course, as you can imagine, what is the other experience that we want to do now? The question was very interesting. Is do we want? Just going to talk for plantation here. We're trying to do it in a way where we use nature to do it. And in our case, we use a transportation that would be costly for the environment to ship bottles out and back, the rum that would be diluted down. And so we're shipping the rum at barrel proof, and that's why people did it in the old days. And of course, when you park a boat somewhere, you don't need to move it around with the engine. In fact, I got a little confidence to tell you, the French authorities, when I told them I was going to do this, as you can imagine, I got in trouble, and they said, "What, a floating aging cellar? This is forbidden." And I said, "Well, really? Why?" Because it's legal to age spirits in a cellar. And I said, "It is just a cellar that happens to be underwater." And they said, no, it can move. And I said, "Yes, it moves with the waves and things." They said, "No, it's got an engine, it can move, so it is not a cellar, it's a boat." So what I did, I took the engine out. So if anybody is interested, I have a very, very big 48 built engine for barge hotel. I'm going to put it in Le Bon Coin. That way we can actually declare it as a cellar. And so we don't need, you just need the natural energy. And the question was very clever, because people would say, could we actually have the racks moving? But think about it, you can actually have the nature rocking your barrels for you. And that's what we are doing. And I also salute the guys who are doing with sailing ships and so on. And of course, that's the great goal down the road. But we have to make sure it makes sense in terms of cost. So as you know, I'm very adamant. When people trust us with plantation, I want to make sure they get a lot of rum when they give us their trust by purchasing a bottle. So we're very careful about this.
Great. Atle, just one last question. I'm actually really curious about it, but do you think we could finish cognac in an aquavit barrel?
Oh, yes, indeed.
You guys are trying to get me in jail.
You're
brilliant.
I think the answer to everything is yes, and we have to take it from there, obviously. But this both dynamic aging and also using different barrels and swapping barrels makes sense. And you just need to I think there's two ways to go. You can be totally exploratoric. You just try something out and see where it goes, or you can have an idea and say, I want to go from here to there and match these two flavors and see what can happen. So I think the answer to that is yes. We started out with saying that spirit is just one big happy family. It evolved somewhere around 10,000 years ago. Somebody found out how to distill, and it's just been taking turns forever since then. And now we have cognac, we have aquavit, and we have rum, and we have lots more. So to combine them makes perfectly sense to me.
Yeah, the only little detail, Atle, is that if you ask me to put a cognac in an aquavit barrel, and
cognac anymore,
you will get me in jail for 5 years instead of because it is not relevant to the AOC, and of course that would be, I get in enough trouble like this. So this one I will to consider it very carefully.
We can't talk. We can't talk on Facebook, but we can talk after. Yes.
I just want to say a little something before we go. I want to say thank you to all our friends, who tuned in. That's really kind. Thanks for your trust. I saw a lot of friends from the Caribbean, from Cuba, from Sambat, from Jamaica, from Barbados. Thank you. Much love. I can't wait to go back. As you know, I spend usually a week, either in Barbados or Jamaica every month. I can't wait until we can ship and fly, and fly again. And also our friends. I see friends from The Hague as well, and so on. Thank you for joining it. That was really a beautiful, beautiful time together. And also want to thank Stephanie, who it's not easy to harness two passionate guys like that, and also Atle for this wonderful, wonderful partnership. So thanks everyone. And you know that you can always trust us for my job and our job is to make things that, you know, is to blow your mind. And we're trying to do this. And I'm working very, very, very hard to do this. And I know, Atle, your team is wonderful, playing along with us. So thank you for this beautiful partnership. And cheers to all of you. And sorry you guys didn't get the bottle, but we'll make sure you get some. And anybody who wants to come and see me, I am here in Cognac Vineyard and soon, hopefully, in Barbados. Cheers to everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All what he said. Brilliant. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.